All right, season 7, episode 13, first person shooter. This is one silly ass, goofy
This
episode,
episode is so funny.
but
The girls really had a fun time with this because of Mulder's glasses, his sunglasses in this. So
when
good.
when they get on their
This
outfits to
is
go in,
yeah.
so stupid.
I think it's always very funny. The show has done it a few times. But just in general, when you see like stuff from the 90s about like video games
Yeah,
and like how advanced video games are going to be,
yeah.
and yeah, it's always so ridiculous.
It's not even
And
how advanced they're gonna be, it's how advanced they are. This
yeah,
is like
right.
technology that exists right then and there.
Yeah, for the 90s, which is so ludicrous. And
Yeah.
it's sci-fi and I get it, but it always feels very corny and cheesy. And I think it also really speaks to the like fear of video games at this time too, because
Mm.
there's other episodes we've had too, and just in general, this like idea that I think was kind of born in the 90s, like when video games became more popular, that they made people more violent, which still is something that people think as well. Maybe not as much, but like now it's kind of just like if you play video games, like you're a loser. But there was a point where it was like if you play video games, like violent video games, like that means that you're a violent person, and like you know,
Pure nonsense. This is actually counterintuitive in my opinion because I think that everybody needs an outlet. And I think that video games, especially violent video games, is a good outlet for your rage, much like, fighting, punching bags, stuff like that. I think that having an outlet is a very natural and, you know, I,
normal.
yeah, smart thing to do.
Mm,
I think that it's bad to hold your rage in and try to pretend like it doesn't exist, like repression. That's not good for you, right? I think that video games and there's data to back this up that this is just nonsensical because South Korea per capita plays the most video games and the most violent video games, and they have some of the lowest violence rates in the world.
yeah.
So there's no correlation between violent video games and violence. Is there a person in the world ever that's
Oh
played a
yeah,
violent
I was
video
gonna
game and has
say,
been inspired to
yeah.
create, commit acts
Of
of
course,
violence?
of
Of
course. There's
course.
people that have played video games, there's people that have watched movies, there's people that have read books or listened to music. Like there's always going to be a scapegoat for why people do things, but it's like it's not the fault of the art for how people interpret it. But this is also a common like theme to explore in horror, in that like what if there is something that influences you or brings out the worst in you, as far as like whether it's a game or a book or a movie or whatever, right? So I get the like fascination with it, but like yeah, I think that it just this episode is very funny to me because it's like not only is it one of the cornier looking episodes, like because the graphics are so bad, but just the whole like I don't know, the whole like story is very silly.
I mean, I wouldn't say the graphics are bad because the graphics are just real people.
No, the
It's
graphics when they're like at the end when she's like multiplying and stuff, like all that looks so hokey and is very funny.
yeah.
Which is fine. Like I don't have anything against that. Like it kind of adds to the charm, but when they're just yeah, when they just are in the game initially, yeah, it's just a person walking towards them. It's like the most advanced virtual reality thing that you could
Ever.
imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we have this basically right now. This what we're seeing in this episode is uh has come to fruition
Yeah.
to a degree, right? Like you can go, my brother did it. You can go to a place with virtual realities headsets where you put on these things and then you put on the suits and you hold the guns and then you go into a room with your friends, and when you have the headsets on it makes it look like you're this tactical unit who's taking down like military guys or whatever. So this does exist
Yeah.
right now. I've never done it. My brother said that he played it for like I forget how many minutes he said, but he said it was like very disorienting, made him
Mm,
super dizzy.
yeah.
He said it would really screw me up because I already deal with these issues, um, with like dizziness and vertigo and stuff with video games. It's unfortunately a huge problem that I have. So this isn't super far fetched by any
Yeah.
stretch. Like this really is a thing.
Yeah.
But like this virus that like actually kills people and stuff, like yeah, you're as you're saying, this
I
is
mean,
like reactionary fear
it
mongering, almost like
is.
the satanic panic of video
Yes.
games.
There's always a fear, like, and this happens definitely, I feel, in the 90s, like as we get closer to the 2000s and like after that, a fear of emerging technology and AI especially, and like the intelligence of computers surpassing the intelligence of humans. And that's like still to this day something that people like even more so today. I mean, we literally have AI robots coming out and stuff. So it's becoming very much like a reality, but the other part of this is like there's a fear, and this I think is maybe a uh, of all of those things the most understandable fear, which is that with virtual reality and like when you change your perception of reality, like the danger that that could pose to your mind, like when you start messing with how you see things in the world, like how that could change things, right?
Sure, especially if you're like schizophrenic.
If you're schizophrenic, but like also just regular people, like
Sure.
anytime you start like, if you can put a filter over the world so that you think that people are monsters or whatever, right? Like the they live glasses. Like it just totally changes how you interact and with this video game like that's kind of what happens to a degree, but they go into a video game so it's not like they're out in the world or anything. They're just in this one building.
I do believe in the future. I don't know to what extent and how many people will take on to this, but I do think that we are moving towards a virtual reality future like Ready Player One. Um, I think that that is on the horizon currently. I think once they can master certain aspects of virtual reality and make them more true to life, especially sex. I mean, of course, that's going to be the kind of like final frontier of it. It's going to be like if you can make sex feel at least somewhat real or straight up real, and people can go and they can just kind of indulge in all of their carnal desires, without consequence of STDs or um, pregnancy or any of that stuff, and they can just put on their goggles, be whoever they want. They don't have to worry about how they look, and they can be a different person every day, and they can fuck a girl or a guy or a dog or whatever they want without judgment. That's gonna be too appealing for most people to deny. And there's so much capability there. The applications are limitless when it comes to virtual reality. It's going to be sold mostly under the guise of like protection of children, right? Where it's going to be like, well, the world's dangerous. Do you know where your child is? Every time you send them out in the world, there's all these things that can happen to them. Wouldn't you rather they are learning from the comforts and safety of your home, so you always know where your child is? And you're going to be able to, as I said, the applications are limitless, so a kid can be in their room and they can be safe in the house. And with everyone being a helicopter parent these days that doesn't want their kid to have a single issue with their physical body, um, I think that yeah, we are gonna kind of devolve into this society of home dwellers who are living in a virtual reality where you throw on your headset and you can be flying a plane, and you can build a building, and you can break it and tear it down, like almost like that scene in Inception when
Mm.
Cobb and his wife are like creating anything. Their imagination is the limit. It's going to be very hard to pry people away from that once they can make that feel real. Once you can kind of do anything you want without consequence, I think that's going to be such a draw for people. It's going to be really hard to pull them away from it, because look at how addicted we are to our phones right now. Imagine putting on goggles and you get to, go to bed with Margot Robbie, and you get to fucking like build a building and burn it down and break it apart and create physics that don't exist, and you know and do it all from the safety of your bedroom. And yeah, I'm thinking of all, like, there's so many aspects of it. My brain goes wild with how many ideas I have towards like how this can be utilized, in a classroom. Imagine being able to take your classroom and say, instead of being like, hey, like, let me teach you about ancient Rome, like, how about I take you there?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you do a class where you walk through ancient Rome, and like everything is tangible, and like you can grab it and look at it, and you can like take a pot off of a shelf, and there's like text about it, and you can read about it and learn
Yeah.
about it. Like I'm telling you, the applications, the like buildings, as I said, like architecture school. Like imagine a teacher being able to be like, okay, and let it, instead of just like showing it to you in a textbook, let's build it. And then let's see, like, if you don't build the foundation correctly, let's see all of the different ways that can go wrong, and why these physics apply. And
Mm-hmm.
like, you guys build your buildings and we can walk through them. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we are heading towards that.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
Sure. I agree.
So, and I think we're closer than people might think,
Yeah, definitely.
with like
Definitely closer.
the headsets that we're getting right now with the Quest 3 and beyond. Um, I own a Meta Quest 2, and that's like rudimentary in comparison to where we're heading, and I think that is the coolest shit ever. And if they can really advance that stuff,
Mm,
oh
sure.
boy.
Yeah.
So I don't think that this episode and this concept is far-fetched at all. If anything, I think that this is too limited
Mm.
to just a small scope of like shooting. And getting back to the episode itself, like when they're fighting, like I don't know if this is just because the director is just shit at directing action, but like them just standing up and going,
Yeah.
like shooting their gun endlessly, and then the
Yeah.
guys just blowing up like
Oh
all
my
kind of at
god.
once eventually,
I
and people being
know.
like, this is awesome. Like,
That's such a like that's the computer graphics of the time of
so
like what you
stupid.
would see in a video game. So
Well,
it's
plus they
yeah.
can't be too violent.
Right. It has to be kind of like not as realistic because otherwise it would be yeah,
Too R
too
rated
R-rated for
for the
television.
television show, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really weird episode. They like Mulder gets like stuck in the game, which is also like where the heck does he go? Like so there's definitely some very interesting stuff happening there, but his outfit that he goes in, we just were all like laughing so much cuz he's got like the tiniest little like sunglasses on and
Yeah,
he's trying like they have him in this like badass looking outfit, but it's just oh
it's
my gosh,
goofy.
it's very goofy.
Very dated.
Very very dated.
The like cool gamer guy that they call in, who
Yes.
everyone's like, Mulder like knows who he
He's like, "Well,
is.
it's this guy. Yeah, he's gonna like he's got some record."
Tamiyuchi
Yes,
something. I
yeah.
forget what his name
Yeah.
is, but it's really silly.
It's so silly.
It's like,
And then she like does she decapitate him? Yeah, she does, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and
Because
they're
when
just
they
like
when they
trying to
show his body, his head's between his legs
yes, right.
in the body bag,
Yeah. Very
which they're
silly.
culpable for that. They sent
Definitely.
him in there, and like, what the
Definitely.
hell? Why aren't these guys arrested for murder at the end
The
of this?
company shouldn't exist
Because you know who
anymore.
invests in this and calls them in is the lone gunman.
Yes. The lone gunman is like, we need help. Like, we need to figure out what, like, why this person died before we can, like, this is supposed to go off, like, next week, like, mass market across the world.
I
Um,
hope this gamer guy was informed very well that his life was on the
yeah, he needed
line.
to have signed, like, some type of agreement being like, your family won't sue us. We're not liable.
Yeah,
Probably not,
I
though.
think I think this goes beyond a lawsuit when murder's
Yeah, I
involved.
think so, too. Um, yeah, and then when Scully goes in to, like, rescue Mulder and her outfit is equally goofy.
Yeah,
Uh, so funny. It's just very funny.
I'm actually fairly surprised. I'm sure Gillian Anderson probably had enough sway to be like, absolutely not. But I was actually kind of surprised her outfit wasn't sexier.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad it wasn't, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, "Hey, we want to put you in this," and she was like, "I'm not gonna wear that,"
You
because
and
they
I
already
are
have.
definitely at
Well,
odds
okay,
on
because the thing is that they
that.
already have the goddess in this. That is like the sex symbol of the episode. Like she
Ridiculous.
is supposed to be that, like, like, especially this is still a thing in video games where like female characters are always made to look like absurdly proportioned, wearing like
Nothing.
nothing but
Yeah.
they're like battle stars, and it's like what? Like what? So yeah, she's that character.
And this creates a backlash in the community as well. I mean, we saw a good glimpse of this when The Last of Us Part 2 was released.
Right.
And, there was a bunch of nerdy gamer it's on there bashing people like Abby
Yeah.
and being like, how Americans present women in video games versus how Japanese people, and they showed this ridiculous girl who had a waist this big
Yeah.
and tits this
Yeah.
big. And, it was like, this is a post apocalyptic, realistic
Yeah.
world versus fantasy.
Yes.
And, like, are you guys not getting this? But it was genuinely like, I want to fuck the girls that I look at in video games. And we even get that in the adaptations. Like, one of the things that the show gets shit on the most, if you click on any like post about The Last of Us TV series, literally click on anyone on Facebook, you're gonna see the same like character animation drawing of Bella Ramsey as Ellie with this disgustingly distorted, like terrible looking face, like of a mongoloid. And it is so offensive and so angering. And like there's so many pictures that have been posted about like how they want Ellie to look, and it's like very like attractive fuckable girl, and
Which
it's
is
like
so weird because
Ellie's a
not only is
14
she a
year old
child,
lesbian.
yeah, but then she's also a lesbian. Like, she's not supposed to be attractive to you
Well,
in
okay,
any, but
that's
like,
not true,
but I
but
mean,
she's
like,
14. That's the problem. There's plenty of
yes,
lesbians that are
no, but I mean,
attractive.
like, it's not for guys though. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing. Is like, it's one thing if you're designing a heterosexual character and like have that in mind, but it's like a different thing when it's like
But
both.
don't
Okay,
lesbian
like in
women
general,
also want to be
women shouldn't have
attracted
to
to?
be attractive to people in order to have like value as a character.
Of course.
That's really what it comes down to. Yeah, that's hugely problematic with video games, but I think like now too there's a lot more women that do play games, and it's definitely not like it's a fixed issue, but I think there's a little bit more awareness coming to like how characters are designed, whether it's because of their gender or their race or like whatever. So I don't know, but this character, the goddess, is like that. She's the what's her name, like Bayonetta.
Oh yeah.
Like that's kind of what she reminds me of in this. She's got the long hair and like she's very slender and very like sexy looking, and
Yeah.
throws all the guys off as well because they're just like.
Yeah.
And then they meet the real version of her, like who's this. I think she's a prostitute that
Oh, it's
they did
a
like a body,
stripper.
yeah, a stripper. They do like a body imaging scan on
Yeah.
as the blueprint.
Yeah.
Very funny. And her name is like Blue.
Oh, I
It's
don't
something
remember.
funny. It's like a
Jade Blue,
yeah,
Afterglow.
yeah. And Scully's like, "What's your real name?" And she's like, "That is my real name. Like
Yeah.
that is my legal name."
Jade
Very
Blue
funny. Very
Afterglow.
funny. And that scene too though kind of like is so typical of the 90s cuz like all these cops are like out in the hallway and they all keep going in to like ask her the same questions over and over again, and they're just like being a bunch of like teenage boys basically, and even when Mulder goes in, he has like the same exact reaction, and I'm just like, poor Scully, man.
Well, Mulder and Scully actually do get into this debate in here where Scully is that science believer who thinks that video games adds violence to the
Yes.
world, and Mulder thinks that It helps men's innate desires rejected by polite society,
Yeah, they do get
which
into
is
that conversation.
much more on my side of things with Mulder. Such a man thing to think, I guess. But I
It's
think
also,
that Scully, now that we've had a lot of case studies on this fact, I think that Scully would probably be on the side of Mulder, because Scully is a very data centric woman who looks at, case studies and draws her conclusions from science. And I think that science has proven that video games do not lead to an uptick in violence. So I
well,
think she
there's
would change
also
her tune on that now.
there's a lot more diversity with the types of games now as well. Like first person shooters and like those types of games were kind of like the initial ones, except for like maybe like Tetris and stuff, but like,
I
you know what I
understand
mean?
that,
Like
but
now there's so many different
you
types of
can you
games.
can play any game you want. You can play the most violent video games.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, yeah, I'm just saying like in general, like it's an expanded like realm.
Sure. But I think that her views on this are very outdated and are of the times, with kind of the panic of the time,
Yeah.
which I feel like, I don't know. I feel like Scully should be a little more um prophetic with this. Like,
Mm.
I feel like she should be able to see that for what it was at the time, that was more of like outrage culture trying to
Mm.
find blame for things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Scully's character would be able to see what was to come and
Mm.
be like, I don't think so. They're just video games. I don't think they're leading to violence.
Yeah.
And she would have been right, because from what I can tell, I play tons of violent video games, and that does not make me more violent at all. I'm just violent, period. I'm not violent at all, actually. And yeah, we talked about all that stuff. I mean, we mostly talked about everything. Um, I know that the main guy doesn't want to destroy the video game,
Yeah.
and I don't understand this at all. I genuinely don't understand this. Like, this game is killing people,
Yeah.
and he's like, or they're like, we don't want to destroy the game, and it's like, but why? Like, even if you sold a bunch of
Yeah.
copies,
Oh yeah, we were
it's
talking
just
about
gonna
this.
kill everyone that
Right.
plays it. So you're gonna kill all your players.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna get sued, and you're gonna lose all the money, and you're going to be remembered as the guy who killed a bunch of people with this video
Yes.
game. Like,
Yeah.
you
I
don't have
know.
you
It's
don't
so
have a
weird.
product that is sellable.
Yeah, like you have to fix it anyway before you can sell it. Like even if you had people sign agreements or whatever, like there would be so many lawsuits that would happen because there would be a lot of casualties.
I think that they're, like, don't don't break the whole thing. We just need to fix the issue, and then we're good. Which I get, but like, it seems like they want to save this version of it,
Yes,
like,
it's definitely what it seems like.
and it's like, well, that wouldn't, you want to kill people?
Right. Like
Like,
what do you think is going to happen?
what? I don't understand.
Yeah.
So that didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But this is a very goofy episode. We talked way too much about other things in here, but that's what we do
Yeah.
with all the 20 people who will watch this.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Oh well.
All right. That's that. Moving on.
Bye.
Adios.